You scanned the code, so you must obviously have some interest in coming up to feeders. I'm Darius with Wonky Feeders, and I hired in directly off the street back in 2014. So that means I'm not really the best person to explain the process of internally transferring into feeders. So what I did was I went for a ride the other day with my buddy, Mr. Gary Rice. Some of you will know him. He came from the Riverbend Center up to Wonky Feeders in 2021, early in that year. So I figured, let's just ride along with Gary, throw him some of the questions, and he will walk you through a little more detail as far as the process of doing basically the steps that you have to cover and then the steps that UPS has to cover. Really quickly, those are get your temps, do a week of training, get your full CDL, do another week of training, and then ease into being a productive feeder driver. So let's go ahead and ride along with Gary and let him give you a little more feedback from the perspective of a package car driver who's actually done this process recently. Good luck. All right, Gary, you remember when you first came up to feeders? When was it?
Last week before, around Labor Day of 21.
Okay. Was that, when did you actually sign the intent sheet? Do you remember that?
Second week of 21, second calendar week.
Okay.
I'd had my year of safe driving as a full-time driver, a regular package car driver.
Yep.
And I decided that I may not be able to retire if I had to finish my career as a package driver. Was accepted into feeder school. That meant that I had to acquire my CDL permit attempts, which involved passing 4 20-question multiple choice tests.
Nice.
First time through, I acquired my test, or acquired my permit, cost me $45 because it's something the company will not, or does not provide. After that, I was on the road, or received on-road training for 2 weeks, which meant that it was my first time at the controls of a semi-tractor. Nervous as hell. I had pulled a trailer behind a pickup truck, and it's a little bit different. Once I passed my on-road test with the Kentucky State Police, I had to go get a CDL physical, which is a little more in-depth than a DOT physical. All right.
Yeah, we covered in the sheet or in the handout, but it's worth repeating. Not just initial drug screening, but ongoing drug screening is a way of life in feeders.
It is.
There's no getting around that. So know that you're signing up for that.
And it's federal. It's not company driven.
Exactly. UPS does not have the option to back out of that, even if they wanted to. So you finish your 2 weeks of training. What was that first couple of weeks like for you? What sort of jobs were you covering? What shifts were you working?
None. The training was scheduled where it was convenient for both myself and mostly the on-road supervisor. 5 12-hour days that, I'll be honest, flew by. Didn't even seem it was 12 hours. Drove to different hubs. Went to Columbus, Louisville, Lexington, Sharonville, so that once I was kicked out of the nest, so to speak, I knew I had seen where I would be going. To understand how different yards work, and they're all different.
Yeah, that's a big part of it, is learning to operate in and around lots of other hubs. You are no longer just worrying about your own hub anymore.
No, sir.
You will have to get to know every hub in the Midwest.
Yes, sir. Within reason.
Yes.
Yes.
But yeah, that's a big part of the job for sure.
After both I and the trainer were confident that I would pass an on-road, a practical application test of operating. See, after we were both confident I would pass the on-road test administered by the Kentucky State Police, and if you're licensed in Ohio, it'll be by the Ohio Highway Department, I believe. I scheduled my own test. I took it at the Crittenden Scales, and I was able to achieve my CDL first time around to the total cost of $45. After that, there was some further training, 2 more weeks provided by the company, at which point I was sent back to packages until there was a need to bring me up.
Yeah.
Because there were a lot of guys sitting on the couch between June and September. And it didn't make sense that when I could be working in packages to bring me up to feeders to cause one more guy per day to be sitting on the couch and not making any money.
Yeah. So how many years has it been now in feeders?
Let's see, about 18 months.
Nice.
So some of the differences, the way that feeders is different from packages is that by and large package routes start at 9 o'clock in the morning. Feeders is not so narrow a scope, but feeder starts 24 hours a day. We have drivers showing up for work at about every 15-minute increments, and that's not just Walton, that's company-wide.
Basically, you could say any time of day.
Any time of day. Yeah.
They could be clocking in at 5 after midnight. They could be clocking in at noon or 4 p.m.
Yes.
They're all over the place, and not all of them are Monday through Friday. That's another key. Some
Yes.
are going to be running Tuesday through Saturday. Others are going to be running Sunday through Thursday. So they really are. It is a 24/7 operation, and as we said. And that is key, knowing that you are going to be a part of a 24/7 operation.
Now we do have drivers who prefer to start at 2 a.m. or midnight or 10 p.m. so that they're able to make their children's practices and games or performances, what have you. They're available in the afternoon and evening to attend those things, and they're not missing out because of the job.
Yeah, that's something that's not obvious to people in the beginning, that actually some of those odd sounding shifts can be surprisingly family friendly.
Absolutely. And they're set to a schedule to where you can actually plan something, whereas being on what's called the pick list,
Yeah,
you
coverage
can't
board.
necessarily do that.
Yeah, that's harder. Whereas the driver that's starting at 10 p.m., that sounds difficult at a point, but when you imagine, well, heck, you could coach your kid's basketball team starting at 10 p.m. You knock out the practice, you eat dinner with the family, and then as they're all going to bed, you go to work.
Yes. I will say that over this past summer, when it was in the 90s for that stretch, that I enjoyed being in the air conditioning. Another thing that is different between packages and feeders is the culture. Feeders is not a run, get your truck empty and get back type of job. In feeders, we want to get everything there as safely as possible, ourselves included. A lot of folks will say that they work at the speed of safety, and that's not always the fastest way to get things done, but it does make it able to be done again tomorrow.